Hey, how you doing today? So what I want to talk about today is I see there's so much divisiveness going on in the world, right? Like your sex, your gender, your financials, your religion, your political preference. I mean, politics is such a big one these days, right? To divide people. There's mass shootings, there's food factory plants being blown up, there's so much corruption, oh my God, taking place. Like, we are literally in the times of Armageddon, like whether you realize it or not. We're here, but the interesting thing is, we created it. We co-created it. It didn't just happen from the wrath of God. There's been people who have decided that the plan or the will of the Creator doesn't meet their plan. So they've been massively fucking with shit and disrupting stuff. Massively. Trying to make it look like it's God, with climate change. No, when people spend billions of dollars to spray chemicals out of planes that are affecting the vegetation, the water, the air, how everything moves. That's not God's will. That's not God's will. That's evil's will, trying to assert itself on God. But one of the things that just popped into my head the other day, probably yesterday if I'm talking about it today, was that, so we've got all this division, right? Yet, we have a lot of commonalities. One, the human race. We're pretty much all human. I'm not saying there aren't hybrids, and I'm not saying there aren't alien or artificial intelligence among us, which are not human. But, we got that one thing going for us, right? Blood runs through our veins. And pretty much, unless it's a rare exception, and I'm so sorry if it is, but unless you're born with some kind of disability or deformity that, maybe you're only born with one lung or one kidney instead of two. You know what I'm saying? But even you, if you are, you still have blood pumping through your veins. So we all have that in common, right? And we all, along with the animals and the plants and the minerals and the water and the atmosphere and the oxygen, we all live on this one planet, right? Different locations, but we all share one planet. I think reasonably we can all agree on that. And pretty much I think we can all agree that regardless of what your sexual preference or your gender, the only way you're getting here, unless you are made in a test tube, which they are starting to do now, which is not human, but we all come through the same birth canal, right? We all come through our mother to physically land on this planet. I mean, common sense wise and just reality, can we all actually agree upon that? Okay, and to be here, well, you've got to be able to breathe, right? You got, it's just a scientific, absolute, non-negotiable. If you're going to live on this planet, you have to breathe air. I think we can all agree upon that, right? And again, unless there's a disability, which I'm so sorry if there is. I'm not in any way, shape, or form judging or nothing. I'm just pointing out realities. If you're a human and there are no deformities or disabilities, you're going to have two legs of which to put your pants on, right? 2 arms to put your shirt on, and a head, and 2 ears, and 2 eyes and a mouth. And you're going to have a heart. And you're going to have lungs. And you're going to have kidneys. And you're going to have a spleen and a stomach. And you're going to have a large intestine and a small intestine and a colon. You're going to have eyebrows. You're going to have lips. You're going to have a nose. You're going to have hair. And pretty much, for the most part, you're going to grow up from baby size to adult size. Again, unless there is some kind of rare circumstance. So, can we all kind of agree upon the fact that not just for the human world and the human race, but this is pretty much how it is with every species, like every single animal species, right? You're going to come in, an egg and a sperm are going to meet, and you're going to start to grow, and then, or you're going to grow inside of an egg for some beings, right? Like turtles and chickens and snakes and octopuses and stuff, right? Sorry for all the other species I haven't mentioned. Didn't mean to leave you out. But the same thing with a tree, right? Like a big oak is going to drop its acorns, and those little acorns will grow into trees. Just like the scrub oak, just like the sage, just like the aspen trees, just like the pine trees, right? So what I'm establishing is there's a commonality, scientific, factual commonality of how Source created this process of growth and the time we get to spend on this planet. Right? So it kind of, in a way, I get that there's all of these separations, but there's a whole lot of commonalities that we all share, right? Like, not to be gross, but just going to the bathroom, right? If you're a man, you're going to do that in a certain way on one part of your body. And if you're a woman, you're going to pee in a certain way on a different part of your body, but we're all going to poop the same, right? It comes out of the same hole. Same thing with the animals, right? Not only do we need to breathe, but we need to drink water, right? We need to be hydrated. That's not just for a few people. That's for every living species on this planet. It doesn't matter if you're a tomato plant. It doesn't matter if you're an elephant. It doesn't matter if you're a human. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what sex. It's a fact, right? So I'm trying to get us back to what are the basic elemental facts that are absolutely undeniable that we have commonalities. So one thing that I started to realize yesterday was, even though we've got all this fighting, even though we've got all this disruption and corruption, which I'll tell you one other commonality we have. Almost all of the disruption and corruption is actually coming from like one place. It's the government. It's not the people. The people aren't trying to create all this stuff. It's those that are ruling, or supposedly we've given our power to be in charge. They're the ones that are actually creating so much of this mess, right? And I don't mean just like the government, because we've also given our power over, not just to the government, but to the tech companies and to the agricultural companies and to the education companies and to those who write history and those who, the medical companies and pharma and science. We've actually given our power over to them in many ways. In if you're in a first world nation, right? We've pretty much, even if you're in a third world nation, we've pretty much given over our power to these other people to take care of us and hope that they do a good job, right? But we don't do that much to hold them accountable every day. And, their lies and their propaganda and owning the media stations and outlets can, kind of contribute to a lot of misinformation that divides people. But we're sticking strictly with the what connects us here. So yesterday I had this thought and I was like, hold on a minute. We're so divided about so many things. But I also think that one thing, oddly, that we could all completely agree upon is that if you saw a jar or a bottle or something with a skull and crossbones on it, pretty much anybody over like the age of 8, maybe even a little younger, would go, oh, well, that's poison. And poison is not good for you. You don't want to ingest poison because you could die, right? It's on all kinds of labels for all kinds of products, right? And to a great extent, we've tolerated a lot of products like in our households, a lot of products for animals, a lot of products for surgeries, as okay, yep, it's poisonous if swallowed, but can be tolerated in micro amounts. Okay? Like, no, I'm just using Clorox as an example. I'm not going after Clorox. I'm just saying, you don't want to drink a bottle of Clorox, probably not really good for your system, but to use it to disinfect and to clean your house on a very small amount basis could be very beneficial. But I think overall, what I'm pointing at here is the fact that we would all have probably a consensus that it's not really good to take poison on an everyday basis, right? But and I think we could all pull together anywhere around the world if we knew that we were intentionally being poisoned and that there are those that believe that it's their right to actually poison our glorious, beautiful, amazing planet. I mean, I don't know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not trying to be right here. I'm trying to be in right relationship with what's sound science and what we understand. So, is anybody objecting to the notion that, oh no, I think poisons are good for us? Even cancer treatments, right? I'm not going to judge anything here. I'm just saying a cancer treatment is poison. It's radiating. It's radiating and putting chemicals into your body that could kill you because it's killing the cancer, but it can also kill you. But it's interesting to me because apparently there's so much research that goes into, cancer treatments, which honestly in the last 60, 70 years have not changed very much. You got chemo and you pretty much got radiation, at least from the Western medical side, right? But with all the money that they've spent on research that hasn't really produced much in the way of understanding how to help the body naturally heal, so we're kind of still stuck with poison or radiation. What if they spent time understanding, what literally causes cancer? Not working on the cure, because if you keep working on a cure because you want to patent something so you can make more money, but you don't actually do the research to go, let's see, maybe it's the chemicals in the sky that are coming out of the backs of planes. Maybe those chemicals are getting into the groundwater and getting into the animals. And as I'm standing here speaking, there's a gorgeous red-tailed hawk flying above me. Thank you, messenger. Hopefully I'm sending out the right message. When you eat foods that aren't even natural anymore, that don't even contain the proper minerals and nutrients because of the farming practices we're using, when chemical companies invade your crops and then you're feeding people poisoned food, when we're using these toxic chemicals in our houses and around our kids, when I know that right now, tech, we are connecting with each other through Wi-Fi, right? But even that, when the last tests that were done on the damages of this technology were like maybe late 70s, early 80s, and it was based on usage of 1 hour a day maybe, and it was a certain G, let's just say it was 1 G. Now we're like up to almost 5, or we actually are up to 5, and we're on these damn things all day. I mean, I'm not judging anybody because I'm kind of like a crack addict with my phone, constantly checking things, right? It becomes habituated. But I think if we go back to the fact that we can all agree that receiving poisons on an everyday basis that you don't even know about, would any of us not agree that that's not okay with us? Or would we pretty much have a unified consensus around the planet that it is not okay for our governments, our medical systems, our agricultural systems, our education systems, our technology systems, even our media systems, to poison us on an everyday basis? Is that something that we around the world in a united way could actually really realize? Like, fuck no. Like, you have no right to poison me. You have no right to poison my kids. You have no right to poison the animals. You have no right to poison our earth. Is that something that, again, regardless of your politics, regardless of your sexual preference, regardless of your religion, regardless of your gender choice, regardless of, your financial background, is that actually something that we could all unify about? We will not tolerate being poisoned. Because if it is, and it sucks that it's kind of a nasty subject, right? Like, oh my God, we are being poisoned every day. The clothes we wear, the fabrics that they're telling us are so wonderful, and Gore-Tex and Tencel and this stretch fabric and that, those are all petroleum-based things that we're wearing on our bodies every day. The soap products we use, the hair products we use, the toothpaste, the water that we drink that's filled with fluoride. All of these things that they make such awesome, marketing for, we don't even realize that we're being poisoned every single day. I'm not trying to make you paranoid. Just trying to wake you up to the fact that that's actually factual science. And I'm just wondering, and I'm a person, look, I appreciate science when it's done properly, when it's well researched, when it's well followed up on, when it's not being paid for to look a certain way for certain companies to justify certain things that are not congruent and are not healthy for people. I'm all for science. I'm not against it. But I'm also open to lots of observational science, like seeing how nature works. And if we go back in history tens of thousands of years, there's been tons of observational science about how our planet works. And the interesting thing, it wasn't being poisoned like it is today. So I'm just wondering, and this might be a shot in the dark, but I'm wondering, with all the separation that's going on today, and it's very, very intentional, and they've been using science to create this intentional abuse and disconnection and division. I'm just wondering if this one notion of us not being willing to accept being poisoned on any level, politically, sexually, education-wise, religiously, If we all saw the earth as our home, and we all saw our bodies, and the animals' bodies, and the trees, and the plants, and the minerals, and the waters, and the skies, and there is no separation. Just curious, if we were able to take a look at this and unite to say we are done being poisoned, and all of the things that divide us, actually, this one thing unifies us and allows us to have love and compassion for each other because we have one common cause: to protect our earth, to protect our mother and our home, to protect the animal species, to not allow for tech to run away with cloning everything so we have no natural genetics of being human anymore, and the animals have no natural genetics that have the God code within that unifies us all. I'm just wondering, how would that sit with you? Could we actually unify in love? And could we together choose to eliminate all of the poisoning that's been happening to us over time while we're distracted with our bright shiny objects and our new phones and our new this and our new that, and we have to go here, and we have to go there, and we gotta push this limit, we gotta, how about if we just all took a deep breath together and let everything that's been clouding our minds, everything that's been creating division in our minds, what if we took a deep breath together, got back to our gut, and we just got back to the truth of, is it okay to continuously be poisoned? Do you want to be poisoned? Do you want your neighbor poisoned? Do you want your kids poisoned? Do you want the earth poisoned? Do you want the animals poisoned? Do you want the trees and plants and the food that you eat poisoned and the waters that you drink? And if that's a no, then I feel like, as strange as it sounds to look at poison as the thing that unifies us, what if we all just decided we were done being poisoned and we just eliminated that? It doesn't matter what religion you are. Doesn't matter your age. Doesn't matter your sex or your sexual preference. Doesn't matter your income level. Doesn't matter, all these things that are currently dividing us, especially politics. Oh my God, politics is like the new religion, right? But what if we just realized that there was one unified creator, and that creator wants nothing more than for us to realize how precious and gorgeous this life is, and that we're already living in heaven. And all that creator hopes for is that we're able to see through the poison of the lies and the deceit and the manipulations and the chemicals and how things are being manipulated against that love. That's the poison. Now, would you be open? Would you be open if we had a unified One Love campaign for everything on this planet? And that we know that by unifying together, we're moving back into grace with the Creator's plan. And we're creating a healthier, unified, loving place of such gratitude for the magnificence that we have been given for free, that has been hijacked by some, so that we could have a really amazing time on this planet, and we can once and for all banish evil and hatred. Just curious, would you be open to unifying for love, to release all of the poisons that have been separating us? I wish you a glorious day. Sending so much love and chi.